You ready to do this thing?
Let's get into it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sweaty Casuals, the podcast brought to you by the Snowflake Sanctuary Discord server. This is the podcast where we like to talk about things games we love to play, from the state of ranked systems to our thoughts on the newest sensations and everything in between. My name is Zach. Usually I'm joined by my co-host Nox. She's not here this week though, and we're going to be your guides as we traverse Elo Hell. Today I'm joined by Bunny and Bandito and Paradox Muse, and we are going to discuss DLCs in gaming. What we think about them, what we don't like about them, and what we think future's going to look like. We need an icebreaker today, and I struggled to find one, so I came up with the lamest one possible. What is your go-to, let's call it like 5-minute game in Steam? The one that you open up in your sidebar, the one that you kind of go, oh, yeah, I just need to kill like 5 minutes.
On Steam?
Yours isn't on Steam. You can just say what it is.
Hearthstone, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's what we're all... Okay, yeah, it's Hearthstone. Like, come on. I play Hearthstone while I'm playing other games. Like, I'm moving around, like, I'm walking back to lane in League, and I'm taking my turn in Hearthstone. Like, that's the amount of split focus that I'm doing. Like, you know, sometimes, I got a Battlegrounds game, then, well, I'm on turn 10. Yeah, it'll end in 5 turns. I'm on, like, turn 16, and I'm, like, also playing a League game at that point. Yeah, no, it's Hearthstone. Like, come on. So,
Bandito, what do you got?
So 5 minutes doesn't really do it justice, because that's not how it works. I can't do that. I'll go insane. However, I will always end up going back to Risk of Rain. I'll just load up a game and have it in the background. Oh, I need to work on something else. It's paused. It's there just waiting. And then as soon as I'm good, I'm right back on it. I will go back to it at least 3 times a day. Just get a game in. It's nice.
What about you, Bunny?
I really have literally no game that I play for 5 minutes ever. I would probably say some cozy game. Walmart's Warehouse is one of them, or Unpacking. I just got A Little to the Left, so something that I can just like go on and
I get that.
chisel away. But
Yeah.
other than that, I am 100% like an hour tops gamer.
I feel that.
For me, I like I've been really enjoying the FTL, Fast and Light. That's just it's such a simple little game, and you can sit down and be like, I'm gonna go play this for an hour. I'm gonna go play this for 3 hours. You can also be like, I'm gonna play this for 5 minutes. I'm gonna play this between rounds of something else. It's so nice, especially because like one of the core mechanics in that game is I can pause time.
Yep.
Like the game's just built around that, so it's so nice.
I have a whole playthrough of that game that I have recorded. It's quite good.
It's a great game. And I think it's usually like $10, and I think it usually goes on sale for like half that. Super worthwhile, especially with the topic of today's conversation. It's got a little bit of DLC that you get for free, which is nice.
Nice.
How do we start this conversation? How do we want to talk about DLC? Because I'm going to guess most of us probably don't have high feelings of DLC. Let's just talk about what DLCs do we like? What are some good DLCs?
I'm assuming,
other than Fast and Light.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm assuming you other two don't have something immediately pulled up. I do, so I'm going to go first. Because I heard, I was told this topic a little bit in advance, so I got a little bit of time to think on it. And I have some opinions.
Oh,
First
boy.
one I thought of, a game that I just recently completed far too much, is Elden Ring, with their most recent DLC, Shadow of the Erdtree. It sucks. Not because the DLC is bad, but because the DLC makes you forget that you've beaten the base game 10 or so times. Because it will treat you like you don't know how to play every step of the way, and I'm here for it. It's awesome. You get a new experience even with an experienced account. It's amazing. I love it. It took me apparently not a lot of time to finish, but it beat shit out of me quite a bit. Second one I have pulled up that I'm going to start with is, again, Risk of Rain 2. They've recently come out with Survivors of the Void. They introduced a new playable character and like 4 new enemies, along with a new ending that is fantastic. That's what I've got for now. I've got more later.
So I was
Yeah.
thinking about this, and I know we were talking a little bit earlier about examples, but there's if it's not like a major purchase, if it's still that kind of like microtransaction freemium purchase on the DLC, if it's adding a good amount, it's kind of okay. And like one that actually comes to mind is Smash Bros. With their individual characters. Those are usually pretty good. Where the
I was
characters
gonna say they're $10 usually.
they're $5.99 usually for the characters. And so usually what you end up doing is you get the fighter pass, and I think the pass is it's like you buy I think you get 1 character off or something like that. It's something very similar to that, or you save a little bit by getting the entire pass. You can purchase them early. You get a character, a stage, and all of its songs that end up coming with it. And again, they only started doing Smash DLC in Smash 4 because it wasn't a capability in Brawl, but Brawl had 4 or 5 hidden characters that they were working on in development. And so I also posed this question to a couple people that was like, okay, what makes a good DLC? And they mentioned something that isn't in the base game because of either development cycle or issues that, they had to get it out by a certain deadline, Christmas, right? Like, or any other reason that they may end up needing to get something out. And therefore it's like, okay, we can actually just go back, spend the time that we actually needed to add this into the game and put this out onto the assembly. So honestly, I like the Smash DLC. I get, people don't like the fact that, you're essentially paying it's about $100 when you look at Smash Bros for the complete game. But $100 for a full game, and depending on how much time you're going to put into it, that's really not that bad.
Oh, you're saying including the base game?
Yeah. So it's like
Okay.
the $60 base game, $20 for the first fighter pass, plus Piranha Plant is another $5, and then you got like $25 for the other fighter pass. So it's like $110, right? Like whenever I end up doing, because we buy a lot of Switch setups for what I do, every time that we have to buy a station, it's $900 to $1,000 for a Switch station, and it's because we get Smash the DLC. Typically, like we'll do a GameCube adapter with that. So, when you include all of that, though, and 10% of that is just Smash, it's kind of weird, but at the same time, it's good, right? Like it works. All the characters are good. They're typically in there, and people typically like those characters. So.
So
How about you, Bunny?
I am a huge fan, and the best game ever made, Skyrim. And I will preach that until maybe the new one comes out. Probably never will. And it probably will not be as good as Skyrim. However,
Bandito, I know you have thoughts. Please hold them to yourself for now.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Whatever you have against it, like I said, I will fight you to the grave. However, I will say, again, if you disagree, fight you to the grave, that their DLCs were very great additions to the game. The game itself is great to play just without the DLC. However, Dawnguard, Hearthfire, I think it's Hearthfire. Hearthfire, and Dragonborn, and even the Anniversary Edition, I don't know if I would even call that a DLC, maybe it is, added just so much to the game that even if they don't do a new Elder Scrolls, it really adds to it. Is just enough. And go ahead.
Oh, no, please finish up.
So it just added so much more quests, abilities to, build your home. And yeah. And this is not obviously a podcast to discuss, or a podcast episode to discuss the mods, but even the mods added to it. So But yeah, what were you
Whole
gonna say?
whole other
Exactly.
category there.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is just funny though, because I was thinking, I was like, okay, what are some bad DLCs? And one of the
If you-
ones that I kind of started pushing in that category was Fallout 4.
Uh-huh.
They had the one that came out in April, May.
I think, give or take,
Somewhere
it
around
was
there?
around the same time as the show.
Yeah, it was shortly after. And I don't think everybody seemed really excited to get new content, especially on a game that's, what, 10
Old.
years old? Yeah, it's about 10 years old. But on the flip side of that, it broke all the mods. So we
9.
really can't call it a good DLC.
Yeah.
Especially because so many of the mods are just, how do we make a Bethesda game work?
Mm-hmm.
So it's wonderful that you guys brought up these points because I can argue almost all of them.
Okay, shoot.
First, Bunny.
Save it?
Skyrim itself is
What
good.
are we gonna do with
I
Skyrim?
love how they did the DLCs.
I already have a whole episode that's going to be dedicated to this in the
Oh, good.
future, okay?
Oh, good. Okay.
Now we know who two of the guests on that episode will be.
Correct. He does not deserve more money. He got too much. He got enough. It's good.
I mean, I agree with you on that.
The DLCs, I love how they were structured too. It was done really well. I like it. I
Yeah.
understand. He does not deserve more money.
I agree with that statement. But we'll save that. We'll put a pin in that.
Paradox, in the same vein as Smash Bros., another game I had brought up was Dead by Daylight. And my issue with how they do their DLC is that it becomes pay to win.
Mm-hmm.
Each character brings in, depending on who you are, brings in new abilities that breaks the game. If you have those abilities, you win for the next 4 months until they're like, oh shit, that ability's really good. We have to nerf it into the ground until no one plays it again. I'm a little passionate about it because it happened to me more than once. So I can understand the appeal, and I think in a game where it's not ability based, I think it does really well with. You don't have to worry about it completely changing how the game works.
Real quick, how much money have you spent on Dead by Daylight?
I don't want to answer that question.
He pleads the fifth.
Yeah, I probably
It is
did
not a
more.
small number. I have to check though. It's
But honestly, with Smash, it's more of a Nintendo problem in terms of like them balancing the game, because they just at some point just arbitrarily say, "Yep, this is the last patch. This is
right.
this is the future. Like, we're not patching the game anymore." And it's like they totally could. And half the time, the reason that a character becomes broken is because it's incredibly hard to code those types of games. And when you end up getting down to the nitty gritty with like the frame data in those, that's why Steve is just, he breaks fundamentals of fighting games, and that's why he is the best character. But also, like, he hasn't won a major in America, or I don't know if if Steve's ever won like a tier or S tier or P tier event in Smash. So like, yeah, they're usually really good, but the community gets around it versus like Bayonetta, who was an absolute menace in 4, and then you have like Brawl Meta Knight, which everyone likes to talk about, but those are individual smashing things, like Smash Bros things. But like, I still see your point, right? Like, it's that if you're going to end up doing these kind of like minor DLCs, at some point they're going to break the game, and then you just got to go in and fix it, right?
Yep. And then they didn't.
Yeah.
By the way, an answer to earlier, out of the 31 released, I have at least 17 of them. Now,
Yeah, that is too much.
Oh.
The prices range wildly. It can go from $4.99 to, let's see, the top one I've got, $29.99.
Yeah, so somewhere in the vein of like $400. But how much time
A
have you
lot
spent
of
on a
money.
game?
Oh, God.
I think I just hit 600 hours.
Yeah, so that's like $1 per hour that you're essentially probably have spent on that game, right? Like, that's what a lot of people forget about, even with the realm of DLCs, is that video games are such a fantastic return in terms of time investment into enjoyment. Like, if I'm going to spend $20 on a movie ticket, and that's going to be a 2-hour movie at best, and I'm getting like 10 hours or $10 an hour of entertainment, is that really worth it when I can go play a video game and get like $1 per hour, if not more? I know I have over 1,000 hours on Smash Bros. And I know that like I have another 4,000 just because I've had to like stream the game before.
Yep.
And then I leave my Switch on. But that's a different story. With any video game, any Pokemon game, any of the Pokemon games, I'm going to get 60 hours, 40 hours out of playing most of those. I think I do have 60 hours before the DLC on Scarlet and Violet.
Which I haven't been able to play the DLCs, but I did do Sword and Shields, so I know I touch base with you. Bunny, do you play Pokemon?
I own both Sword and Shield and the Violet one. But
Did you get the DLC by any chance? Okay.
sorry.
That's okay. I wanted to make sure before I just started talking to Paradox.
Sorry.
But Paradox, I think you would agree that the DLCs, while they weren't bad, some of them were good and some of them were not great. Isle of Armor was not great.
Yeah.
It was the weakest by far.
Added something to the game, which is awesome. And specifically with Sword and Shield, you can tell that, Dexit, as people named it online, where they didn't bring all 1,000 Pokemon to the Switch, and people were up in arms because they left out Surskit, of all things. Like
I need another Intimidate user.
Yeah, and it's one of my wife's favorites, anyways. So I always make fun of Surskit. But like, again, the DLCs in Sword and Shield, it added back in Pokemon that they clearly were like, yeah, we just needed more time to model on them. Like that clearly was the option. So at the end of the day, yeah, it's kind of a good DLC because it's changing the competitive scene for Pokemon, and it's giving enough content for more of these users where, yeah, you probably spent another 20 hours on each one of those DLCs. Except, yeah.
But Isle of Armor added Urshifu. Has that
True.
really been good for competitive?
No, that hasn't. But that's a fair point. That's a fair point. That one's a fair point. But what's the most recent Scarlet and Violet DLC? I don't even know the name of it.
Not Secret of
There should
Area
be a
Zero?
sign.
Yeah, I mean, that should be a sign, but you end up seeing a lot of content that was created because you get to like be the Pokemon and walk around as a Pokemon.
Yes.
And that alone, I can't imagine how many hours some people have just spent in that game mode for that DLC. That's going to be one of the top DLCs that they've probably ever made, just because of the sheer amount of time that they've kept people in their game. And it always becomes a precursor for what's going to come next with like ZA art or Legend ZA, right? Being like one of the next ones that they're going to make, where again, their last Legends game had a free DLC that was also really good and did a lot of QOL stuff that they clearly wanted to add in the base, but just didn't have time because they needed to get this special project out so that they could make money to then make ZA.
No, they needed to get money so they could actually put some of their developers back into Scarlet and Violet because it was probably more of a train wreck.
Sure, why not? Yeah, either or, because their schedule is asinine. Like, we're supposed to get Gen 10 next year. Think about that for a moment. Gen 10 is supposed to come out next year. Like, that's their development cycle. It's every 2 freaking years we get a new generation. 3 years?
3.
Sure. Okay, so what? Then we'll get Gen 10 news next year, and then we'll have it out by 2026, right? Because Scarlet and Violet's only been out a year.
Give or take.
Yeah. It's still ridiculous, right? In terms of their turnaround that they're trying to develop like 100 new monsters. Like, you're gonna have a mouse pad Pokemon next year. Like, why not? Who cares at this point, right? But it's that understanding that
just
again,
a pigeon.
Yeah. Soda can Pokemon, and it's candy, like, aluminum, or they're just Al, right? Like, that's all it's gonna be, because they're clever. But realistically, like, their DLC, yeah, it's not great, but there's typically something that is added to the game that isn't anywhere else in the game that keeps the user in there. And so it's pretty good, usually. I hate to say it, but they usually do good DLC. I can't think of a Nintendo game that actually has bad DLC offhand.
I will throw out there, I think Crown Tundra was really good. I did like Crown Tundra. I haven't played either of the new ones, and I've been holding off because actually seeing anything about them because I'd like to try and experience them. But I think Crown Tundra did it right, and particularly with the max raid dens. That was just here's a time sink. Here's something that's long and tedious, but it's fun to do.
Yeah. One thing I was thinking of though is, does anyone else, have they ever played a game where like the DLC, you get certain items in the DLC that just make the game absolutely trivial, but it is a single player game?
All of Elden Ring.
Yeah. Those are
All of
probably
it.
the worst. Those are the ones that I probably despise the most.
Yeah.
Because like you want to get the DLC if you're a huge fan of the game, and that's what DLCs are for, is the people that are huge fans of the game because they're gonna just buy them anyways. But at the end of the day, like if you use any of the items, it breaks the game. Like you are so overpowered in any one of those games, right?
See what I love about it, the way they did it, so that it didn't completely shatter the whole fucking system, was you first have to get to the DLC, which is its own problem to begin with. Apparently, there is a boss wall that seals off the DLC that only, I think it was like 43% of players have beaten. For those who don't know, Moog, the Lord of Blood, you have to beat him to be able to access the DLC. I did not realize he was supposed to be a really difficult boss because I unintentionally beat him on my second try using a build that was far more powerful than I was skillful. So, going into the DLC, I did not have the skills that I should have garnered from the rest of the game. So walking in, the first guy pulls up and I got my ass handed to me because my overpowered build that led me through all of a base game Elden Ring got me stomped. I got destroyed before even making it to the first boss. What I do like is you have to either search or defeat big bosses to access the weapons that will become overpowered. It is still difficult, and you still have to get there. Once you do, the weapon itself is the reward for winning. And I like that. I like how it's structured. It makes you have to struggle for a bit so that you don't have to struggle for long. To me, that's fun. God, I could sit and talk about Elden Ring all day. I beat the shit out of it. It was awesome.
What about you, Bunny? Have you had like any games? Because now there's one that comes to mind for me, but like any games where like the DLC just makes it absolutely trivial?
Not really. I probably the most recent would be Dreamlight Valley, that I've played. Dreamlight Valley came out with a DLC, A Rift in Time, which they needed to fix the base game before they came out with a DLC. However, the characters you got, some abilities you got in the game, if you didn't purchase the DLC, which was quite a lot of money for a DLC, especially for a game that they sold on the fact that it would be free to play, possibly. The DLC, if you didn't purchase it, the base game is just not great. You're missing really fun characters. You are missing some abilities. I ended up purchasing it just for those abilities because I was like, I want to be able to do this and I can't. Other than that, when it comes to DLCs, I'm just really ignorant in the fact it's the same with movies. I love any game I play. I will spend a ton of money on games for DLCs just to get that next step. And it takes me a while or big reason to not like it. Probably hence why Bandito and I disagree on Skyrim. Because I'll give that man $100.
He doesn't need
take
any
my
more.
money.
He got it all.
Take
He
it.
got
please.
it.
But you even like said it there too. You said Dreamlight Valley, right?
Yes.
We're gonna have to talk after this because my wife plays so much of that game.
Yeah.
She absolutely loves that game.
I mean, I love it too. It's love it.
addicting.
It's a great game. However, there are issues with it that
I mean, also
I experienced.
she plays it on the Switch, which just has performance issues, which is just I don't even know how she does that.
Yeah.
Which is
Switch's
just
performance issues are a whole nother category.
I know. That's another topic for another day. But like that was actually going to be a topic I thought of too, was the idea of freemium games, and do
Mhm.
they actually have DLC? Like,
Mhm.
are micro purchases technically DLC?
Mhm. Yeah,
I think
Dreamlight
there's
I
definitely a
has
some
difference.
way.
MMOs that offer premium and other
I
more money.
I think DLC has to offer content. It can't be cosmetic.
Mhm.
It can have cosmetics in it, but it has to offer content.
There has to be something to back it up,
Right.
something substantial.
Yeah.
Like another story. And I know Dreamlight Valley typically has like storylines that go with the characters. So when you
Mhm.
do either like get the pass to get the characters, like there is content there. So, but I was even thinking
Mhm.
about that too of like, typically there's a premium currency in like another game that, will end up coming out, and uh you can get that, and it might have some storylines with it, but it might, like, it's not going to have that much content with it, right?
Mhm.
So,
Sure.
there's like those micro purchases. But the one that came to mind for me that like ruined the game was, I'm a huge Fire Emblem fan. I don't know if anybody else here has played Fire Emblem. You're smiling.
No.
No?
I only know them through Smash.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah. I mean, that's the reason I play Smash, is because of Fire Emblem, but um
Justified. They're the most fun people to play.
they certainly are. I saw Ike on the cover of Brawl when I was
Mm.
12 or 11, and I was like, oh my God, he's in another game. I'm buying that. Right. And that was phenomenal. But the
So
most
how's that
recent,
marketing going?
I mean, they did a damn good job with me. Considering I'm still freaking playing their games, and have bought all the DLC since. But um again, Fire Emblem came out, the Fire Emblem Engage, that was the most recent one on the Switch. And one of the like key things in the game is you get these rings, and the rings can power up certain characters, but the whole thing in their storyline is there's a certain number of rings, right? The DLC adds 5 rings, and you normally can only have 5 rings.
Mhm.
And so your army, when you can typically deploy 10 to 12 people per chapter, you're just deploying all your people with rings. And you can get the DLC on release. So it wasn't even like extra content that came later in the game. It was literal content that you had to purchase. And I played the entire game on the hardest difficulty. It was not hard, right? But like without those rings, I can certainly see where it would almost feel impossible at the same time. So it did feel pay to win, but playing it as a single player game, which was kind of awful. Like I wasn't a huge fan of it. And yeah, you can say, okay, don't use the rings, but one of them was Hector. So I wanted to use it, like he's one of my favorite characters of all time. That's the reason, or one of the big reasons I bought the DLC, was to like have him on my team. But it it definitely felt weird to kind of just do that. And looking back at those games, that's how a lot of their DLC has gone. They had
Mhm.
their first DLC for Shadows of Valentia, which was a remake of the second one for the 3DS, and it added this area where you could just continually grind. And then you also had a third promotion for all of your units, so they just got obnoxiously strong, and it made the last few maps trivial. So
Mhm.
yeah, you can play the hardest difficulty. You can beat it with using, all of the DLC. But at the same time, did you actually beat? Is that the way they intended it? Because the DLC was on release for this game, or was it meant to be this absolutely grueling experience that, some 18-year-old found a way to cheese and do a speed run in an hour or something like that?
Mhm.
I don't know. You know,
I think I've been pretty vocal of my anger towards the Isle of Armor, but what is everybody's least favorite DLC?
Mhm.
What's the one that you wish you
Other
could take
than
back?
all of Skyrim as a whole.
Ugh.
You can't say that. Sorry. Todd Howard will
Shit.
come after us.
Oh God. I probably should have thought of this one.
How's that prep work going?
Yeah, I had something.
Is it bad that the first thing that came to mind was every single DLC for Dead by Daylight?
Oh my God, yeah, kind of. Well, no, there were some that were worse than others.
I mean, I would say they're great in the sense of getting a cool character, but I don't play killer at all, so there's no need really for me to get Dead by Daylight DLC, and I've given them my money
That's
just the
fair.
DLC. However, I would say any of Dead by Daylight because who likes going against the clown? No one. Who likes going against any what is that character that you play all the time, Bandito? And I absolutely hate it.
Ooh, the doctor.
Well, not the
doctors.
doctor. It's the one with the like tentacle.
A Nemesis. I like
Yes.
him because I knew him from the series Resident Evil.
Yeah.
That's
Hate
why
him.
I keep him.
Chucky, hate him.
Oh god,
Twins, hate him.
least favorite. If it was in Dead by Daylight, the last breath of the nurse chapter was pretty fucking useless. There was absolutely nothing worthwhile there. If I had to choose one, Call of Duty Black Ops 3, I made the unfortunate decision of buying literally everything connected to it except for the currencies. Just to preface that. Zetsubo no Shima is arguably the worst map they've ever made. And I've played all of them because I was bored and had nothing else to do. And I still think that one's probably my least favorite. It's gross, the enemies are bullshit, and it's not fun. I don't like it.
We need to set you up on a Halo 2 lasso run.
I'm content without that in my life. I've heard the tales. I'm quite good without.
I think I'm in the camp of like, if you don't think a DLC is going to be good, or you don't think like, you like if you're going to spend the money on the DLC, you're going to get something out of it, and you probably should get enough out of it regardless that honestly just be happy,
Should.
Like what?
You should be able to.
Should be able to. And so I honestly like, yeah, I was kind of harping on the Fire Emblem, but if that's my worst one and I still got to play like some cool characters, you get like the 3 houses ring on that, and everything. So it's not the worst. Like it would be the worst for me, but honestly, I don't even think it's that bad, Like,
Sure.
yeah, okay, it was a 7 out of 10, maybe, like, I don't know. There's not a lot of DLCs that I would honestly say that I've gotten that were bad.
Did anyone here play Battlefront 2?
Which one?
Yes, I did.
With all the DLC in the world?
Oh god, hold on. Now I have to look at what the DLC was because
Was that the
there's
one
a
that people
solid chance
memes
I
that it was
did.
going to be like $1,000? Yeah, okay. I was like, I avoided that game because everybody memed that it was going to be like $1,000 to have the whole game.
Now, granted, I know a lot of it you could unlock by playing the game, and then there was DLC on top of that.
I did not have all of the DLC, but I definitely didn't have a small number of them. I don't like to work for things. If it's able, I'm right there, and I want to play it, I will be playing it.
So I guess I think one of our important differentiators is like the difference between a free-to-play game, a live game, something like an Overwatch and Apex, versus one of these games that we've been discussing is when the content changes, you don't get it for free. You're going to have to put more money in. Where do we feel like the line is where that developer now, they haven't just earned the money, but you feel good giving it to them? Where's the point where you're actually like, man, I want to pay for more?
If it's a single player game, probably if I've completed it and actually enjoyed the game and I'm interested to like find more. Like if I was just going to buy another game anyways, and this is going to like tickle the brain in the back, right, for a while, why not just buy it? It's like the Pokemon games where they always make a new generation remake, BDSP, that holds you over for a little while, like eats away at the little nostalgia brain that you may have. The same thing that Legends Z.
We don't need to talk about the disappointment that is BDSP.
Well, regardless, right? Like Legends EA gonna do the same thing when it comes out in March, right? It's gonna hold me over until they make Gen 10 announcement, and then I'm gonna just quietly await Gen 10. The same thing whenever there's Fire Emblem news. The same thing whenever any one of these series, ends up happening. Like if they're going to send the game, it's going to do that. Because again, like you've already talked about this too. Time is money, right? So if we're just putting in the time anyways on a lot of these freemium games, on the player games like Overwatch and League of Legends and any of the Apex, right? You're still going to eventually get that content anyways, or you're just going to, put money into it for cosmetics. You can play enough to get pretty much all the cosmetics in League of Legends and all the cosmetics in Overwatch. I can't fathom the amount of time that you would have to put into it. And it's honestly just going to be far more worth it to open your wallet and give it to, the big companies there. However, you technically could, right? Someone talked about that with Hearthstone, how the old system, because it was every game you played, you could get it down to you were earning, I think it was 1,000th of a penny every like 10 minutes or something like that, or every hour. It was some ridiculous conversion that they were trying to do. However, that's still technically money, and it's still money towards the main part of the game. So if you're going to put the time in anyways to playing the game, you might as well just spend the money and get the DLC if you think you're going to continue enjoying it. And if not, just don't.
For me, it came down to story. If I'm invested, I want to know what happens, what continues. For Elden Ring, Shadows of the Erdtree did just that. It told you a side that we never got to hear from before, someone who basically wasn't there. We got to hear their part of it. A big reason I played almost all of them, Call of Duty Black Ops. I was really invested in the zombie storyline. I wanted to know what the characters were doing. So I got every map to figure out what the characters were doing. Some of which I regret, but also some of which I very much do not. I have played more Der Eisendrache, the snowy German map, than I have any of the other games in the series. And I stand by it. It's the story alone, I think, brings it for me. If it's able to continue what I already enjoy, I don't care if it's good or bad. At least I know what happens next.
What about you, Bunny?
I would agree with Paradox in the sense of if I love the game and it comes out with the DLC, I'm going to purchase it. The DLC may not be great, but I'm going to put my time into it. I would agree with Bandito in the sense if it's a good story and I want to know what happens next, I would totally buy it. Like I said before, I will give any game developer all my money if I love the game, if they make a game I love, which there's plenty of them. I don't care about how much money they have. They can have all my money. I will give it all to them. So yeah, it takes, like I said before, it takes a lot for me to strongly disagree or not like a game. If I liked it previously, for instance with Skyrim, and they come out with a DLC, I'm gonna find some reason to love it, no matter if there's one little thing that I don't like. It's gonna take a lot for me to be like, nope, terrible story, terrible addition. So yeah.
Todd Howard has a net worth of $18 million.
I don't care.
We don't need to know that.
That's like 17 million too much.
Yeah.
Just so we're aware.
I'd say I'd have to agree with Bandito for the most part. Story would be a big driver. There are plenty of games that I can't think of right now that I've definitely gone after DLC because I'm like, no, I want a little bit longer.
I need to know.
I think the other one, so I thought of just a weird DLC, and it's one of the few that I have purchased. Kerbal Space Program has DLC.
Really?
Yeah, it has 2 packs. The first one is called Making History, and they added a bunch of stuff that revolves around the Apollo missions, and specifically it was like things that were like more historically accurate. So if you
Kinda cool.
wanted to really kind of dive into that, you could. The second one though was they added robotics into the game. There's parts that move.
Robots.
Yeah,
Oh.
there's things like
Oh.
joints and extensions and things like that. There used to be a mod for the game called Infernal Robotics. And all it did
Hate
was
that.
add basically all the exact same things. But it was really janky
Huh.
because the game was never designed to handle it. So the DLC was like, hey, we're going to do this and we're going to get some money out of it, but we're going to make sure it actually works.
That sounds just about right. God, I can't imagine playing that game with shit moving. I can't. No, thank you.
Oh, we
I'm
should sit down
good.
for a playthrough one time.
I'm good. I think I watched you play it straight for about 2 hours. Like,
Yep.
there wasn't a word spoken.
Yep.
Just watched you slowly
I've
work
been there.
through.
And
I've
it's so
been there.
slow and methodical.
It's so, like, each individual choice has to be perfect. It has to be as close to perfect as you can. I think I'll go insane if I have to even kind of touch it. I can't.
And the best part was we got Taco to download it and he enjoyed it.
Which is fucking hilarious that he did.
I think the only other DLC I could think of that we probably should at least touch base on was the concept of free DLC. And I think probably the hands down best example we could pick for, and I know 2 people here are ready to jump on it, is Baldur's Gate 3.
Indeed.
Mhm.
I think that DLC, I still haven't played the game, so I can't
Mhm.
speak too much to it. But I think as a thank you to the community and just being like, thank you guys for making our
Mhm.
game as successful as it was.
Yeah,
We're
game of
gonna
the year.
go in, we're
Mhm.
gonna finish up these little things, and we're gonna just give you guys a little bit more.
Mhm.
Like, I can't think of a better thank you that they could have offered.
Mhm.
So I'm in a weird spot because I don't care if they asked for another $60, I'd pay for it.
100%.
For a game this good, yeah, it wouldn't matter. I would.
And I think
pay
if they had
for a
sold it for
second
$5, I'd still say the same thing.
game. Yeah,
Mhm.
no, it was done really well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any one of those games that are going to be massive time sinks, it's like you almost end up with the gambler's fallacy. It's like, I'm going to keep just shoving money in until,
Yeah.
my
Eventually, it'll be good.
my dopamine ends up just, soaring
Until I
through
get
the
those
roof,
golden
right?
dice.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean,
They look so good though. After coming back, it looks so good.
I know we talked about doing an episode and then never did, but Palworld, right? They just
Yeah.
released a DLC that was free for all players, and it fixed
They-
a lot of stuff. A
Mhm.
ton of stuff, added new pals, ended up fixing the breeding mechanic to the point where it's not actually just busted, in like game-wise busted.
If they
and then just
optimize the game, I could actually
and they
play.
optimized the game. Yep, exactly. So for older PCs, and it's like,
Okay.
why not? It's if you're going to lose your player base, and you made what they had like 2 million downloads, 3 million downloads within the first
Give or
weekend.
take.
Just
Yeah.
just go into the development, improve the game, and then try and keep your people. Because guess what? No one's talked about Palworld since the explosion a while ago. But
I
put
actually
60
I found a way to
going
bring it
strong.
back. It's
yeah,
coming.
I mean, I put 60 hours into the game, and for a $30 game, I think it was $30. I don't actually remember how
It
much I
was.
spent.
It
Cool.
was.
All right, so that was like 50 cents an hour. Fantastic, right? I got my money's worth. I'm fine with the 60. I didn't need the DLC, but I know I'm setting up to like start a new server next week simply because it's like, yeah, let's go play with the DLC. Why not?
Mhm.
So anything that's going to offer free DLC usually is a phenomenal way to, like you said, be a thank you to the community.
Mhm.
But more specifically, too, just add things that either were in development that clearly didn't have enough time to be finished, like we already mentioned with Arceus. But, just keeping the player base around in a game. There's so many games that are out there
Mhm.
now that honestly, they come and they go. And there aren't the ones. How many of you guys have played Baldur's recently? Like, when's the last time that you uploaded Baldur's or started up Baldur's?
20 minutes ago.
Mine's
Fair.
still open.
Fair.
Granted,
Okay.
I haven't-
All right. My point is moot then. My bad.
It hooked me, man. I don't know what to tell you.
No, that's fun. Like, it was fun for me for about 2.5, 3 weeks, and that's pretty good staying power in the video game community. Most games, week, maybe 2 at most, right? So any
Unless it's
game
Who's
that
Your Daddy, then it lasts about an hour.
yeah, well, that's true. Never mind. That's. I was trying to remember. No, I thought that at first was the game
We're
where
not
like one
perfect.
person plays as the dad, one person plays as the kid, and the kid's trying to, well, hurt
That's
themselves.
Who's Your Daddy.
Oh, that is
Yeah. Okay.
100%
Yeah.
what the game
Okay.
is,
Yeah.
yes.
All right.
Accurate.
Like, yeah. All right. No, I thought that was never mind. Anyways, but yeah, that's definitely one of those games that what it was like $5, but you maybe got an hour out of it. Hell, that's
It was 20.
20 hours. That's
When
No, it was $20.
bucks, you got it when it was $20. I got it when it was $3.
yeah. All
I
right.
wouldn't spend more than $5 on that.
Look, I didn't choose when you said, "Hey, go buy this."
I'm
I
not
was just
gonna
told,
lie,
go buy
I
this.
literally got it for free.
I got lucky. I got
Next
it for super cheap. Okay.
New episode idea: Steam sales. All right.
In a similar vein, a big one that came out, not necessarily as a thank you and more as an apology, was the Security Breach Ruin DLC.
Oh yeah.
Because
yeah.
the Steelwool Studios didn't know what to do with Security Breach and panicked. And so they thought, let's not fix the game that's already kind of fucked that people are okay with. Let's make a whole new DLC that's like, okay, nothing great, not really bad, but okay.
Mhm.
Also, just, I'm glad they didn't make people pay money for it because it wouldn't have made any sales.
Yeah. Well, and it was a terrible. I will say, I'm going to change my answer. That was a terrible DLC because you couldn't do anything. They just
It was
moved.
boring.
You couldn't go off anything. Like they pigeonholed you in exactly where they wanted you to go.
Yeah.
It was terrible.
It kind of takes away the whole point of Security Breach, which was free roam.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Open, in quotations, open world.
Yeah. Oh well. You win some, you lose some.
Before we wrap up our conversation, does anybody have any thoughts, last thoughts that they want to talk on?
Todd Howard does not deserve any more money. He doesn't need it. He got enough.
We're well aware of your thoughts. We'll bring it up on another episode, I promise
Yeah.
you. I
Listen,
literally have it written
Don't
down.
listen to him. Please.
Bill
doesn't.
Gates doesn't need any more money, but guess
Pirate
what? He
a
now
copy.
owns Overwatch, buddy. Like he Bill Gates has way too
Poor
much
guy.
money, and now he's in charge. Like
Oh, I'm not going down that road.
he's gonna come out with some tracer guns at some sort of convention. Like I'm here for it. Like, and he certainly does. If you're saying
God,
18
that is
million
a
and you don't
sight
need any
to
more,
behold.
he's got 120 something billion. Like, he definitely doesn't need any more.
Mhm.
I'm gonna ruin something for y'all. Whenever Tracer puts her guns away to do like the finger guns or any of her stuff, now they just disappear.
Excellent.
They don't have it where it rolls back anymore.
No, it doesn't go back into her
Oh,
suit. It's just disappears.
That's gross.
Actually, I'm changing my answer. The worst DLC was the PvE for Overwatch 2. I did it.
Oh,
That might be it. That might be
that's
it.
a pretty solid take.
Excellent. All right.
Just
good.
all of Overwatch 2 is a concept.
Different topic.
And yet somehow we always come back to it.
Yeah.
Bill Gates.
Better than
Anyone
devil
else?
you know.
Anything else we want to say on it? On DLCs? No?
Mhm.
Cool.
You have.
We'll do our real world then. This is a segment of the show where we usually like to talk about things that are going on in our lives that may be related to video games. They may not be related to video games. They usually aren't related to video games. A lot of times it's movies we're watching, TV shows we're watching, books we're reading, things we're doing in our life in general. Bandito, why don't you get us started?
So I made an unreasonable purchase because that's what I do, right?
You?
So instead of, I don't know, finishing the same book Knox has been yelling at me to read for the past God knows how long, I picked up another one.
I'm getting there.
Yeah, I know. I got stopped and then I picked up this and now I don't want to. So I am reading the official novelization of Revenge of the Sith And it is one of the best books I've ever read. It is beautiful, a story that I already love, explained in infinitely better words. I love it. It's fantastic, and I'm barely like a 16th through it. And I love it. Yeah.
Hey, Bunny, what do you got?
So, a few years ago, I started gardening, and I think it was like around COVID. Every stereotype that came out of COVID was me. Sourdough, plants, gardening, anyone else can think of anything. I probably was it. So started a garden, and each year it sucked, but this year my garden is plentiful. So it's just been really fun. I have pumpkins growing. I have 2
Ooh.
ears of corn, which I didn't think was going to grow. They somehow are growing in amongst my tomatoes, and I have 2 corn on the cobs. Probably will
Fuck yeah.
yield no corn whatsoever because they're tiny. However, it's the principle. So yeah, absolutely love it. To the point where I have one good year of gardening and I tell my husband we're expanding the garden. Like, take up half of our backyard. We're going to do it because I'm a gardener now. So
I think
Yeah.
I've killed a cactus before.
I mean, I've killed plenty of cactuses. During COVID, like I said, I had probably 200 plus plants and I'm down to 40 of them. I basically was like, let the best survive. I'm done watching guys.
How's your sourdough starter?
It
It died.
probably, I mean, it's alive in quotations.
Okay, then
in
you're
the
doing better than
corner of
what
my
we did.
kitchen. However, it looks really bad.
I think our sourdough starter is at its aunt's house, and by its aunt's house I mean a friend's house, because again, my wife was like, I can't take care of this anymore, you're gonna do it. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
their plan is to like pass it back and forth. So
It's like yeah.
I understand.
It's like a child. It's
I
like a child.
understand. Like
Every day, feed it.
Yep. Nope. Wasn't gonna work. So
Yeah.
Paradox, what do you got going on? You want to tell the story of your wife with the cactus?
which one? There's multiple.
The
When
one
she-
that involved me.
Stories.
Oh, when she was just like in the middle of California at the time, and like we had to go to a cactus farm.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, and it was just like she found a cactus farm, specifically a cactus farm in California that we needed to go to. And it was like we were visiting you, and it was like, yep, nope, we're going to this cactus farm. And it was next to the Karate Kid's house that they used in the movie.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, and it was just like, oh yeah, there's the apartment complex they used in Karate Kid, and it's like, oh, that's cool. And then we turned, and it was like an outdoor just place with just cactuses everywhere, and so many different types of
It's a
cactuses.
lot of cactuses.
There was just so many types, and she didn't buy anything, did she?
She did.
Did she?
Did
Yeah,
you
all
forget?
right.
Did you forget about this part of the story?
Yeah, what happened? Did we have to send it home with? Did you send it home? Yeah, I don't know.
No, you brought it on the flight.
Oh yeah, we had to hold it.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
With,
What?
I think it was like half a water bottle over it.
Oh yeah, so it didn't hurt anybody. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. We did have to do that. We cut a water bottle in your place. I do remember this now very vaguely. Listen, she's brought a bunch of plants home, and every time we end up killing them in some way, shape, or form because
Yeah.
we forget about them. You
Yeah.
know? Right now
Yeah.
it's basil. We got basil plants, growing
Mhm.
like crazy right now downstairs. And honestly, I like fresh basil, so I'm trying to keep it alive. But, like it is what it is. So
If you want a green thumb, green onion. It is so easy.
Oh, yeah,
Just
I mean-
water.
Yep.
Yeah.
Throw it in and you're done. It's
Yep.
awesome.
those are growing above the sink right now, so that's
Right.
that was really good. Yeah, those were really easy to do. But no, my real world was going to be, I finally put my desk together and my chair upstairs. I am sitting in my new chair. I got this for Christmas, and I built it downstairs. And then I was like, wait
It's
a minute.
August, just FYI.
Yeah, it's August right now, and I was like, oh, how do I get this upstairs? So it's just sat in the foyer for 8 months. currently. So I finally brought it upstairs. I'm sitting in it. The old one's behind the green screen, which is great. And then I bought this desk on Prime Day. It came in that day because it's Amazon and they knew I was going to buy it. And then I put it together last night. So I'm very pleased with the large desk and the chair. And I'm going to call it the new chair, even though it is 8 months old at this point. And yeah, that's my life right now. Okay, actually, quick story too. I never it didn't occur to me on how I would put the desk here because it's in the exact same spot as the old desk with all my shit on it. And so it was like I had to leave all of the shit on the old desk while building the new desk behind here. Then I had to move all that stuff. I didn't want to put it on the floor because it's mostly monitors, So I had to put it on the new desk to move the old desk, to then move it back to the old desk, to move the new desk into the spot, to then take that stuff. That was a pain in the ass. It honestly took me way longer than I anticipated, only because what am I going to do with all of this stuff? It didn't even cross my mind, but better cable management. So win-win.
Hey, that's a win right there. That's a win.
Win-win.
Oh goodness, I got thrown for a loop. I had so many other thoughts. I do know what my real world is. You know what? I will mention. I went and bought a book on Amazon today, and I had to do it on my phone. Long story, but because I've been reading things on the Kindle, but I didn't realize I had an Amazon gift card. That is how infrequently I use Amazon. I was just going through my purchase, and it was like, a gift for you. I was like, I have a gift card plugged in here? Score!
I kind of feel that.
But yeah, it was kind of nice just being like, oh. I'm sure it was probably $8, but whatever. That's nice. For my real world though, I was just gonna say, Knox recommended that I read the what the heck is the name of it? The Throne of Glass series. So I finished the 3rd book in that.
Does it get better?
It is getting better. By the end of the 3rd one, I am actually okay, I can see the path forward here a little bit, just enough to be yes, I do want to keep going. I'm finally at this point now where I'm yes, I see where things are starting to fall into place. It took a long time. I almost wish these 3 books were just 1 book.
Mm-hmm.
But we're finally there. And it is nice to get into a new series. And it is funny because now I get all the TikToks for it. And people are like, yeah, by the end of book 4, I'm destroyed. I'm like, oh boy.
It's just getting worse from here. Yeah. I mean,
you've read enough of the Akatar books to know at this point that she kind of just by the way.
Yeah. I was told that the 2nd book was the worst of it. And that, hey, after that, it's all sunshine and rainbows. Quick spoiler alert. It's not. It's not.
How far are you into that one?
Over halfway. It's just gotten to the point where if I pick it up, I know I'll finish it. So I don't want to pick it up yet.
Pick it up! Pick it up!
And instead, I've been playing Baldur's Gate, doing 2 new runs, and reading Revenge of the Sith for the first time.
If it makes you feel better, I've been going back to the hockey books for a bit.
Yeah. But it's good, by the way. If you want to listen to an audiobook of this shit, gas. Awesome. Best book I've ever read. Phenomenal.
Here's where we would plug audible.com.
Yeah.
If we had a sponsor.
And it's just going to be one. If it's people on YouTube, it's going to be a black screen. The Star Wars logo slowly fades in, slowly fades out, and then everybody ignores it the rest of the episode. it just happens in random, and then it's gone.
Have you ever heard the tragedy of Darth Plagueis? Anyway,
yeah.
Thank you everyone for joining us. Hope you enjoyed our discussion today. We do these episodes weekly. If that's not often enough for you, you think we just sound like a cool group of people, or you have your own ideas or thoughts, things you want to hear that are discussed on this show, go click that link down in the doobly-doo. We are in the Snowflake Sanctuary Discord server. We are here all the time. There is a whole separate chat that's devoted just to this. Come talk to us. You want to hang out with us? We are here. We like playing games, even if they have shitty DLC.
Or their Overwatch 2.
Or all of Skyrim.
Or all of Skyrim.
I think I'm the only one that plays it, so I will be okay with that.
Bunny, Bandito, Paradox, thank you guys so much for joining us today. Really, really appreciate it. And thank you at home for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.